Hello, my loves, and welcome to EQ with Jah. So, I have been going through the ups and downs and all arounds like everyone else. And there's times when we need reminders of who we are. And today was a very interesting day. It just started out like a normal work day, and I was working on one project, and then I was doing my work, and I was multitasking per se. We know that's not a real thing, but I was really focused on one project more than the other. And it frustrated me a little bit, and then I think it carried over to other things in my day. And I started to observe where it was going because for a moment, I forgot that it didn't belong to me. And I was like, no, let's see where this goes. And then I kind of just sat down after work and I was just sitting there watching TV and thinking. And then out of nowhere, I just start crying. I'm just like, okay, let it happen. Let's see where it goes. And as I'm crying, my mind is running through things, but my body wants to speak. And finally, I'm like, yes, let the body speak while your mind is running through every scenario, because it's kind of like that parent who's like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta da, 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 da. And the kid's like, hey, I know you're all out here, but I really just need this. But because I don't know all the adult words yet to articulate what I need, I'm trying to use this emotion in a way that's trying to get your attention. And so that is what the inner child is, that's what they're for. There's I always say this myself, you can go back and reflect on your energy anytime you choose to. But holding on to the energy and reliving it and reacting it, unless it's serving you a purpose and you're really good at energy work, then I wouldn't suggest doing it because it will take you into a depression. Like I was allowing myself to go deeper into the energy because I'm an energy reader and I like to see what happens. And once I started crying, I actually was pulling out something that I didn't realize that I was doing to myself. And that was one of those moments where it was like, it's okay to slow down. Like I tell people all the time, take a break, take a rest, it's okay. And when you're a channeler, sometimes you forget that spirit will work through you all the time, all day long. Do you understand? Like that's what nature is. That's why eventually a part of nature was like, spirit, can we get a break? Universe, can we get a break? And they started incarnating life into sentient life. And that's why we have this free will choice to be a part of the co-creation and still take a break when we need it. But mankind, we took too long of breaks, and now we have these drawn out lives that feel like really long for no reason. And it's because we've detached from our spirit purpose. And the spirit purpose is realizing like, it's okay to know that you might not be interested in everything that your soul passion loves to do or express in front of people, but really being able to appreciate, slow down, and articulate how your body wants to be a part of your journey is really important. And it's super respectful because again, we forget, as I'm speaking to you through my conscious knowing, I am a soul incarnated in a body that is speaking through to you through a verbalized sound, through whatever, again, that we agreed upon. These sound means these words. This is what the humans do. And so we tune into these sounds because they make sense to us. Again, we're all a tuning fork. Everything in nature does the same thing. They have antenna. They all know how to communicate with their species. And so what we have to realize is that we got into a level of communication that we are emotional beings. That's why we have created so many words. If you always think about it, when you have so many words and titles and all these extra things, we had to create this thesaurus. That's when you know we're emotional beings, because if we weren't that emotional, we could get by on 5 or 6, 10 words maybe. You know what I mean? We wouldn't really need them. We just know to agree with each other emotionally and just do it. That's why other animals and species are able to work in democracy so easily and fluidly, because they just know what to do. Humans have that extra ability, I guess we call free will, to decide to not be a part of the pack or not be a part of the tribe. And when we do this, we allow ourselves to really reflect on the single cell. We start out as something singular, and the body multiplies. But it's important to, once you figure out how to listen to the whole self, that you eventually go back out and interact with the tribe. Because what I learned through the process of when I was saying that I started to cry and I wasn't listening to myself, it was the moment where I forget sometimes that I speak and think through both halves of my brains fluidly. And so my masculine energy was so caught up in this moment that my feminine energy was trying to just coddle his, it's okay, freak out. That again, I was neglecting the body, which is the child. And I was like, I'm tired, guys. Like, I love you. I will write for you. I will speak for you. I would do whatever I need to do. But like, Jawan, the body is tired. And it was such an epiphany, because I was like, wow, this is how I felt as a kid, probably. And when I look back, that was a moment of clarity that I wiped it away. And that's all I really have to do for myself. I know for others it takes a lot more work, but for me it was not going back into the emotion of why I was sad. I was going back into the emotion of why I felt like I had to hold on to it. And as a child, you feel like you want to support the people who take care of you, but if they're neglecting you in the process of only taking care of themselves, then what does that teach you? You become a child who wants to be a perfectionist. You become an overthinker. You become anxiety filled and depression and all these things. And guess what? These are all the things I went through. I tell people all the time, I'm not a clinical psychiatrist, doctor, or anything. I'm not trying to speak for anyone medically. What I'm saying is for myself. I don't know if I'm cured of everything, but I definitely know I help myself get out of deep depressions and help myself get out of a lot of anxiety, because I started to remember, like, these moments. I've been here multiple times. I mean, anyone who knows me can contest. Like, Joe, I jumped state to state to state, moving around and uprooting my body. And my body's like, can I ever feel foundation? And I was so caught up in my spiritual world and so caught up in my logical world that this is the third eye of the knowing that you're all of these things and all of them need attention. You can't neglect them. It's so important. I don't know who's meant to hear this, but I definitely know someone has to hear this, because for me, myself, I want you to know you're not alone. You're loved. Like I said, I'm going on 36 years old, and like, I'm proud of all of the work and the steps and the things I've done to really take myself to the depths of like what we call the deepest, darkest emotions. And I have my past, and I'm sure it'll come up one day when I'm all out there spread out and the world knows me. I'm sure someone's going to dig it up. I'm okay with that, because I know that all of that was my foundation work. And I mean, it doesn't matter if my valley got flooded or the sun dried it out. I had to learn how to work the land so I could keep growing, so I can keep being nourished. And sometimes again, this is what we're saying is survival mode. When you know how to walk out of survival mode and see that you don't like have to keep working that hard, like the land is dried out, it's level, it's good, but you've gotten so used to breaking your back that becomes not just a discipline, but then we think it's a cultural thing, and then we think it's a family thing, and it becomes these outside identities to something that simply comes back to just honoring your body. Honor yourself. Like, again, I tell people, feel free to, who cares what your legal name is? Just call yourself whatever you want. At the end of the day, again, you're a physical body that someone else labeled you. And we've gone through life as other people's labels, and it's time to release those. And it's okay. I love my name. I love Jawan. But I also know that Jah is the person who looks through back and watches everything that's happening and is directing everything and speaking for us all the time and reacting for us. And sometimes I forget my body just wants to relax. So it was a beautiful moment for me to just unfold. Unfolding is so important when you just stop and say, I need to listen to myself more. because you really do get caught up. Like, I love mission work. I love helping others. I love being there for others. But I love doing that because there's a side of me that forgets. I love having someone do that for me too. But as a child, I had to reflect back on, oh, I was never had that because I grew up, not that my parents weren't around, but they worked. They were busy. And, you got to do what you got to do. But I was a latchkey kid, which means I got out of school, had my own key. No one was home. I'd make my own lunch. I'd, digress. I'd do my own homework. I'd watch some TV, maybe start dinner for the family. People start coming home from work. Everything's set. And like, I started seeing how everyone who was older than me was tired and stuff. And I just took over from where my mom was. I wanted everyone to be comfortable because when she was comfortable, everyone else was comfortable. So these are the things we learn and don't realize we're learning them until conditionally we're just, again, we're a people pleaser, or inverted. For me, it became like when I stopped being a people pleaser, I became an isolist. And then I was supposed to be pleasing myself, but what I was really doing was torturing myself by thinking about all the stuff that I never completed. And that's where a lot of the shadow work comes from, and a lot of the seed work. And what I was able to do once I worked through the shadows and I got through what my understanding and attachments and detachments to certain things that mattered and didn't matter to me anymore, that's when I got to say, okay, well, now that I know who I am as the seed, now I want to replant myself somewhere that really matters to me. Like, not just move because I'm following a friend or following a lover or anything else, or following family. I want to do it because I feel comfortable here. And so this has been my life journey, because maybe something from my past taught me that there was nothing stable, but I do remember moving a lot when I was a kid. And so these are the things, as we say, we don't have to go back and remember, oh, we moved so much and this is why. No, I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is, oh, that makes sense, that this was an encoded, imprinted pattern that became a condition, that became such a condition, it became a discipline that I literally do it every day without thinking about it up until the ripe old age of 30 plus odd years later. So nothing's wrong with that, but you have to always ask yourself, do I want to hold on to this or release this? And for me, myself, I'm like, I can release that. I don't need to wear myself down, because let's be realistic. We only get one body. I've said to my body many times, I love you so much because I know one day you're going to die. You're going to pass away. And you've done all this work for me. You've done all this work for me. And so the only thing I can do for you is try to find a way to take care of you, speak for you, let you be seen, let you be heard, whatever that means. And for me, the opposite, because I'm the opposite of everything. My body actually doesn't like to be seen that much. It took me a lot of time to actually finally start doing videos, because I'm like, I don't like to be looked at. And everyone's like, Jawan, everyone looks at you anyways. You're tall, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, you're right. And so once I jumped on board with my soul work, that's when life got easier for me, because then the soul trusted the adult body, because the soul knows the child body. The soul can run the child body. The soul just takes the child body and does whatever with it. But as we get older, we start learning the rules of society and everything else, and we can become overly disciplined and start shutting ourselves down and not listening to ourselves anymore. And so that's kind of what happened to me, like most people. And so I had to start again filing them. What's my passions? What did I do as a kid that I loved naturally? I sang, I played music, I played instruments, I danced, I drew. I didn't care. I tried everything. And I still like jump into anything, but I wasn't expressing the way I should have. It's kind of funny because I suppressed all of those things that I naturally love to do. It became a concentrated form and went through the opposite side, and I became a writer. I used to, in school, I never wanted to write. I was like, I don't want to write. I don't want to write. I don't like writing. I don't like reading. And it was so weird to say that. I'm like, I read everything, but in school I was so bored because it was the textbook. I didn't like textbook. I liked stories. I knew that words were energy, and if the words that were coming to me were just trying to teach me something, that I'm like, I know once I leave here, I'm going to go use my real words for stuff I love. That's when I started to realize creating content is where my heart is. And so every time I feel something, I was like, let me just say what I'm feeling so maybe somebody can relate. And so when these things connect to others, that's me serving a function as the body to help the purpose of the soul connect to the passions of our creation and our consciousness and our imagination. They're all interconnected. And so like, it's important to just remember that you know you're loved and that you're appreciated, and that if you really don't know how to tell yourself you love yourself and mean it, I don't mean just looking in a mirror. What I do sometimes is I just sit by myself and I allow myself just hug myself for a minute. Some people might be like, oh, that's weird, but it's like, just close your eyes and imagine for a second, each half of you is just allowing yourself to feel yourself. You know how people lie on you and they just hug you and stuff? Sometimes it's nice to just see how you feel. And that's okay. You know, like whatever gets you through your day, knowing that you sometimes stop and give yourself like, hey, you're good, man. I love you. Touch yourself. These are reaffirmations of love. And so if you go home all day with your own physical body and ignore it, and then you only use it to masturbate or whatever all the time, that's when people say that you're abusing your body, because you're not putting your body to the proper use it's necessary for. Your body is carrying ancient wisdom. It's carrying your soul. It's carrying life. It's carrying creation. It's meant to express all the time, but it's also meant to take breaks. And this is why I'm a firm believer in, moon cycles and following the earth. And we are 4 seasons. The human flesh goes back to the same as the soil. So if that's the case, if that grows the trees and everything else, that means that we should be living by the 4 seasons. And so knowing when to take a break is important, but knowing when to listen to yourselves during those breaks is most important. Because what I found that most people do is when you get to this place of isolation and aloneness, you feel like you're supposed to be doing something. And sometimes you can't. You really can't. You got to just sit still and just let the mind work itself out. Let it untangle all the knots of everything that's been jammed in there in the last few years and last centuries. And then let the body and the soul rest within itself and start seeing, oh, ooh, that's aching. Ooh, I need to stretch that. Like when you really just let your body sit and then you get up and stretch, you're like, oh, wow, I need to stretch more. You feel where your body needs your attention. We get one of these. We only get one of these. Whatever we remember to the next incarnation is what we remember, but it's a checkpoint. And once you forget, you forget. And so in our minds, we only get one. The one thing I said to myself that was the most profound statement I think I've ever heard myself say, and not being funny, I mean it. It was, I think sometimes I feel like my soul, that whatever its memory is, this is the first body it's ever loved. You know what I mean? Because you ever look back in time and you see how some people are just reckless with what we call this life, this preciousness. And some people just say, well, I'm living life. And some people are living life, but some people really are reckless. And I can contest to both. I was living life and I was reckless. You can't live life without being a little reckless. But it's also, I learned a lot about protecting myself and loving myself, even in situations that I'm not going to speak on, but I know were dangerous and I know I shouldn't have been there. But I knew how to keep myself protected and get out safely. No, you can't save everybody, but you got to save yourself sometimes. It's how it goes. You can save who you can save who you can't. But the most important thing is you can't save nobody else if you don't save yourself first. And so this is the first time where, I really appreciate this journey. I really appreciate knowing that I'm capable of allowing whatever the words that come to my mind to pack as much emotion into them as possible, so that you can get as much downloaded information as you can. And whatever it activates, it activates. And once it goes and it starts, once the onset happens, you can't stop it. So I just suggest that you allow it to work through you. Don't work for it. Don't wake up every day trying to be something you're not for it. Just let it work through you. And then eventually you will find your own authentic voice. And when you find that authentic voice, you will have the empathetic mind to listen to it and appreciate it. And then when you can do all of those things, you will allow your actual heart to speak from the chest and feel the life vibrate out of your throat and speak the words of love and spirit and universe. and family and community. This is what we're all here for. Whatever people feel about whatever they feel, I always say you still go back to some place at night or some place during the day, depending on your job, to sleep. Everything sleeps. Everything sleeps. Everything sleeps. So, no one is separate, okay? Whatever you're taught, whatever you're trained, whatever you're told. If we do the same fundamental things, breathing, sleeping, eating, need water, need air, okay, we in this together, homie. So until you figure your stuff out, I'm gonna figure my stuff out, and I'm gonna keep giving back in the best way that I know how, which is being authentic and genuine about my journey. And hopefully it reaches the person it needs to reach. And that's all I can do is plant them seeds. Thank you guys. As always, check me out on all my social media platforms. Everything's below. I love you. I thank you. Have a wonderful day.